Good morning, traders. My name is Charles. Today is Wednesday, February 23rd, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. Thank you so much for tuning in. All right, I'm starting a little early today. I just realized I started like 5 minutes early. So there's only 20 people here. Welcome to the 20 of you. All right, well, let's talk about what happened yesterday in the market. Okay, so essentially, we were in a bearish pattern here in the market. It's not technically a bear market per se, but the fact that we are continually having overlapping to lower value day after day for 4 days straight here is the sign that there is a downtrend in the market. I'm going to choose to ignore the trade that took place on Monday. I'm going to just kind of pretend it never happened. So I'm going to look at yesterday's value being overlapping to lower from Friday's as a continuation of that trend. However, when I opened up the chart this morning and I saw that the market just rotated inside yesterday's range in a very tight manner like this morning, and I just kind of eyeballed what this chart looks like to me, it looks like it could be the beginning of a balance area that's beginning to form in here. If you're not familiar with what a balance area is, it's an area where the market can get stuck for several days at a time, bouncing around within a certain range, while the market tries to figure out if it wants to go higher or lower. So what I'm watching today is the poor high that we left behind yesterday. What happens when we get up to that poor high? Do we push our way up there and then just get a little bit above it, creating some excess, and then pull back down into yesterday's range? If that were to happen, I'd be looking, I wouldn't have any like statistical probability for it, but I would be watching to see, does the market trade its way back down to the opposite end of yesterday's range? And if so, does it find support in this node of volume that we had in the overnight the night before last, which is where the market found support yesterday, right? So what happens when we get to there? Do we find support in there and then turn around and head right back up to here? If that starts to happen, I will once again know down here we're looking at a potential balance area. Okay, so that's just, people always ask me, 2 or 3 days into balance, they ask me, how did you know when the market was starting to form a balance area? And so I always point it out when I'm getting a first indication. There's no way to know. I'm thinking the lows from over here could be the balance area high. So basically yesterday's high could be the general area where the balance area high is. And this node down here where we built up so much time and volume in the overnight could be the balance area low. But neither of those has been tested yet to confirm that it is a balance area. One more reason that I would think about it as a potential balance area is just looking back on the daily chart, right? Where did we spend a bunch of time balancing in here? Where did we spend a bunch of time balancing in here? In here? So over and over again, the market has chosen this area as an area to test whether it wants to go higher or lower and balance off. So to me, it would not be unreasonable to create another balancing area that looks something like yesterday's range, right? That we just kind of spend a few days bouncing around in here as we've done it so many times before. So that is sort of, I'm pretty unbiased this morning. I'm willing to go short with the market if we're going to get continuation lower today, if this downtrend is going to continue. And of course, that would be getting through this node of support right here and getting continuation lower from there. I'm open to that idea, but if I had to have a bias for today, it would be sideways. I'd really love to see what happens when we test this poor high from yesterday. Do we get a look above and fail that pulls us back into yesterday's range, or can we get above yesterday's high and come back down and find support? That being said, we are opening inside the previous day's range, inside the previous day's value area as well, and we had an overnight that just rotated up and down. So the highest probability for the market open this morning is going to be chop, that the market just kind of grinds up and down. And the overnight inventory is pretty net long, so I would expect the first push to be to the downside. So I'd expect us to start to push down into here. Again, so many areas where we could find support in here, and then we start chop. We start grinding up and down. That is what I feel like is going to happen for the first half an hour to hour of the day here. So expect chop, and then look for potential balance in a look above and fail of yesterday's range. Or pushing down into this node down here near yesterday's low and finding support. Either or could mean balance. Good morning, Diego, Nor Auto Trader, Chris, Cyrus, Philip, Dean, FM all. Well, FM to you as well. David Glass, good morning. Scooball, hello. Laser Eye, good morning to you. Cyber, good morning. The Donkey in the house, good to see you. Welcome. David V, good to see you here. All right, well, this is what happens when I start the live stream too early. I have nothing to talk about before the market opens. Market opens in 2 minutes. Trading Donkey is saying the crayons are giving different signals in different time frames. Very short-term bullish, less than 30-minute trend lower. Volume cliff overnight at 35. Oh, yeah, I see that. That little node right there. Yeah, the overnight was just good old-fashioned classic rotational. They had no clue what they were doing. Found support and resistance exactly at previous support and resistance throughout the entire night. Right? Where's the major nodes of volume? Right in the area where the previous nodes are. So yeah, the overnight was just uncertain tonight. And so they were just picking each other's pockets. Waiting for more information. Maybe it's about Russia. Maybe it's about the economy. Maybe they want to know what the Fed has to say. Who frickin' knows? They just need more information. Oh, sorry. Greater than 30-minute trend is lower. Okay. Well, like I said, the counter auction should be to the downside as overnight inventory is net long. And then we'll get some chop, some grind up and down here. And we'll have more information. James, good morning to you. Jay Trader, good to see you. So again, for those of you that are just piling in, welcome, welcome. We are expecting chop this morning as we are opening inside the previous day's range. So there's lots of support from both yesterday and the overnight just below us. I can't give you an exact level, but pretty much this general area. Lots and lots of support in there. And then we've got resistance above. So we're just watching to see how the market reacts to these levels. Does it just kind of bounce between them? That is chop. And then does it pick a direction? Does it start to head up towards the highs, which we have a poor high from yesterday that needs repair? Or does it head back down towards the lows? At the moment, we just expect chop. Ronald, good morning to you. Okay, well, that's a very ugly high. So we do not have good taper on that high. That will need to be revisited as the chop continues. Lahab says he's long now. Welcome. Good to see you. Donkey, they sold 35 to the tick again. Looks like it's going to blow. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I don't see that as that strong of a area to me. I would think any short covering would just be a little pop from there. Okay, so we're still absorbing that overnight activity, right? We opened it with the ticks all the way up above the positive 1,000 level. So until they get back to the zero line, odds are we're just absorbing buyers from the overnight that are taking profits. So the market isn't giving us a signal here. It's just absorbing that trade, looking for support. Remember, we got bad taper at the high, increasing the odds. The market needs to head back up there and do some more business. Rev, greetings to you. Welcome. Amir, good morning to you. Welcome. If you guys wouldn't mind smashing that like button, I sure would appreciate it. Getting those likes up early on in the stream really helps to bring in more people. I'd love to get back to those good old days when we had at least 200 people watching and at least 100 likes. But it all starts with a thumbs up from you to tell YouTube that you love the channel and that they should send more people my way. Espacio, hello everyone. Bad taper equals low amount of contracts, right? No, it wasn't the low amount of contracts. Speaking of which, we're fixing it right now. It was the fact that there was this large red volume node with white on either side of it. So the market went from 1,100 contracts to 1,800, back down to 1,000, and that's just bad taper. Taper, they should be kind of slowly fading off. I would actually now describe this as acceptable taper, but certainly not good. So that increases the odds a little bit that we need to revisit there again. This, for example, down here is good taper at the low, but I don't like the 37 contracts. So that's a reason to need to revisit, is we don't often leave less than 100 contracts at a higher low. But otherwise, the taper is good. And the chop continues. So is the market starting to build support here? Is this little node right around the open? Is this going to be our buyers where they step in? Let's keep an eye on those ticks. Can we keep them above the zero line when we get down there? Trading Donkey about to set a MIT buy at 36.75. Oh, do you mean like a limit long that only fills if the price gets up there? You are really obsessed with this node of volume. I don't get it, man. I don't see what's the big deal. But okay. I mean, you'll get a little short covering rally, sure. If we can get above the overnight high, I think that would be a pretty good target to get from there to the poor high, and then test to see what happens once we repair that poor high. But I wouldn't get bullish on anything before getting above that overnight high, just because there's resistance in here. It's called a market if touched. Huh. I don't think that's what they've been called on platforms I've used, but cool. PC NQ is really volatile. They're getting some chop too. Oh yeah, exactly the same as the ES. Potential balancing area. Tough to call a bounce area high here, but you could certainly use this area where the big node was as potential value bounce area low. Anyway, but same as the ES, we're opening inside the previous day's range, and we're just experiencing chop. Just traders picking each other's pockets, guessing where the market's going to go, with no certainty yet. I would say if we get above on the NQ, if we get above this node, so say get above like 14,045, 14,050-ish, you could pretty much target the poor high, the repair of the poor high. Or if we get below yesterday's opening price, so like 13,880, if we get below there, you could target heading back and repairing, excuse me, the week low. The week end period low that we left behind yesterday. So either one of those are good targets if we can break this node or this node. On the NQ, back to the ES. And the CHOP. Chopsville, USA. Brett Power, do any of you know if Mr. Yen Brian Watt went? Where Mr. Yen Brian Watt went? Did he pass away? No more Twitter, no more videos on his YouTube. Had stage 4 cancer. Ooh. It might just be that he's just not well. He doesn't necessarily have to be dead. Stop order, Ronald. Yeah, that's what I always know them as being called. A stop fill. And you can get a stop market or a stop limit. So here we go, heading back up to test that 35 area again. Okay, the buyers are holding up the market above the zero line. So there are more buyers than sellers. Do we have what it takes to break the highs? If we do and we get a little pop higher, what happens when they pull back down? Do they start to bring in support? Or does the chop continue? Amir, I think he was just angry at all his haters after he said he couldn't, after he said we couldn't be correcting right before we made a big correction. Oh, you think maybe he's just embarrassed? Donkey says he heard that he couldn't make enough money trading, so now he's going to cook meth. That sounds reliable. I would say that sounds like a completely reliable story. Jeff P. Usually people who can't make it trading sell videos and chat rooms on how to trade. Thanks, man. Thanks so much. Thank you for your vote of confidence. All right, so let's see how we're testing that zero line. Starting to push through. Sellers are grabbing hold of the market. Lots of support. They got to work their way through. I would say if they can break like half back from yesterday, if they can break 43.10 to the downside, I'd be looking for continuation to yesterday's low, or actually continuation down to this node. So maybe like 42.80-ish. If we break 43.10. But until then, lots of support in here for continued chop. Skewball, ticks breaking lower after trending lower. That is true. I wouldn't overly obsess about the ticks during chop, but yes, that is bearish to see. There are now more sellers starting to pile on. But I would describe it as only slightly bearish. Jeff P., I'm talking about the trading gurus out there. Awesome. Well, I'm glad I'm not in that category. You put me in like legitimate professor grade. Trading McStockster, I often wonder if those types of traders make more money with the chat rooms and the educational content than they do trading. Charles excluded, of course. Yeah, I don't make any money off the channel and the content. I only make my money off of trading. That's the problem with only charging $10 a month. No, but what I assume is happening is that they're adding the money to their portfolios, right? So take somebody like Peter Resnicek. You can follow his trades. You know, he has a signal service, and you can follow his trades. He does have a profitable system. He does make money. But he also trades with like unbelievably large size. And over the years, it's been getting larger and larger. So what he's doing is he's taking the money that he makes from the business and adding it to his trading account, but he is still also profitable in the trading account. So it just continues to grow and grow and grow and grow. He has more and more capital to trade with, coming in from his winning trades and from the business side of it. And then that provides him alternative sources of revenue. You know what I mean? It diversifies his risk. Because if he has a bad day or a bad week trading, he's got the money coming in from the business to fall back on. So hopefully they're doing both. All right. Well, this little node here right around yesterday's POC is starting to feel like new sellers stepping in. That doesn't feel like liquidating overnight inventory. So we are now testing the last of the support that we have. Like I said, to me, 43.10 feels like a good deal or no deal level. Find support there, rotate back up, or we're heading lower. CryptoFace makes something like $10,000 a day selling his TradingView market cipher. Well, Jesus Christ, I guess I need to start trading those. Yeah, I mean, anyone who's doing the crypto market is killing it. Mitch Ray, he has a signal service. He's somebody I've talked about on this channel before. He's another YouTuber who does live streams. He has a signal service where he gives trade signals on crypto, charges $100 a month for it, and he brings in about $200,000 a month just from the signal service. Just needs he's got like 1,000 people, you know, that pay every month for that membership. And he brings in hundreds of thousands a month just from that. But it turns out if you trade a super niche thing, like just the ES on the market profile, you'll be lucky if you find 100 people willing to pay $10 to hear you every month. All right, market finding support right there at the very bottom end of that node. So the buyers need to start stepping in and grinding higher, or we will get continuation lower. I'd like to see them hold the ticks above the zero line. Amir, I think we're going to find support somewhere soon and then V bottom up. What do you mean by V bottom, though? Somebody was talking about that yesterday. I think they just misunderstood what it means. A V-shaped recovery means the market turns around and just goes straight up for the rest of the day. Like the market just finding a low, rotating up, and then rotating back down. That's just rotation. That's not a V shape. Right now, this feels like a market imbalance with a slight bearish tone, very minor. $777 Athletic. Yeah, I saw that. But what I loved about it, what I loved about his post about his new BMW was that it was terrible. Like the quality of the photograph. So at least you know he's not like trying to like show off his wealth as like a way to influence people to follow him. He's just excited about his new car and just took a picture with it. But it's like such a terrible picture. At night, straight into the headlights. All right, looks like resistance. I'm here. Nope, you're looking for just straight up up movement. Okay. Let's see if you're right. I certainly would never say never in these markets. About the only thing you can count on is that you can't count on nothing. It's random. Okay, we just pulled the value area lower. That is a little bit bearish to see. We also just pulled the POC lower. That is a little bit bearish to see. We have the initial balance to the downside. That is a little bit bearish to see. And we're testing the very bottom end of the support. There it goes. So the support is gone, increasing the odds that we're going to head down towards the 4280 levels. There's support between here and there, but that is the target to the downside. Okay, got a low volume node, needs backfilling right here. It's only 40 contracts at 43.1150. We'll look for the market to push back up and backfill that and then find some resistance around 13.14. That was a little bit of a backfill, but not quite enough. Amir, Putin just started following Biden on Instagram. War is officially off the table. I assume you're joking, but does the president have an Instagram? I never even thought about that. I wonder what Trump's Instagram would have looked like. All right, market's starting to liquidate. Potential support around the overnight low. If that doesn't hold, we're looking for continuation lower. Oh, they do have an Instagram for the White House. That's so funny. It's very like corporate looking, but there you go. 7 million followers, less than Kardashians. Most powerful man in the world. Less people paying attention. Diego Cristano, I'm going to get murdered for missaying this guy's name, is the most followed individual on Instagram with over 404 million followers. Yeah, that's the soccer player, right? That guy who's like a really famous soccer player. Footballer. He's a footballer. Yeah, it's actually interesting. I haven't done it in a long time, but there's a way on Instagram you can look and see who are the 100 biggest profiles. Let me see if I can figure that out. But when you look and see like what they are, like what people are attracted to, it's music's the number one thing. Like half the people on the top 100 are musicians. Then like actors, models, a lot of models, and then finally politicians and people like that. It just goes to show you that culture is heavily influenced by art. We might listen to politicians, we might listen to business leaders, but the people we emulate, the people we follow, are the artists. The people we admire and want to be like are the artists. Do 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 do. Just waiting for this market to fall. I'm asking myself the question, what are the buyers that are buying here? What story are they telling themselves? And what will it take to squeeze them out of that belief? I think whatever it is getting below that overnight low. They'll start to get squeezed. Amir and the Kardashians, I consider the Kardashians entertainers. They may not be like traditional TV personalities, but they are TV personalities. They're entertainers like anyone else. Okay, continuing to pull value lower with price. Slightly bearish to see. Okay, we're heading down to test that overnight low. Do we find some support around here? Are we able to get the ticks back above the zero line? Or do we continue to trend lower? If we continue to trend lower and this support breaks, I see us heading down to those 42.80 area. Looking for support in there. Diego, you keep saying overnight low. What do you have as that? Yeah, so I start my overnight at market close. And so clearly, because it's the A period of the overnight, this would have been that 15-minute runoff period yesterday. So for you, the overnight low probably was up at like 43.09-ish, right? But for me, it's down at 42.99.75. Basically our closing price of yesterday. More resistance. More sellers. Donkey's back into his long. Stop set at 90. Walking away. Yeah, you're looking for support inside yesterday's trade. I think your stop's too tight, brother. If you're walking away. Let's see what happens. Good taper on the low, but the contracts less than 100 on the bottom two increase the odds. We need to revisit the lows. Amir, I can't remember if I had seen this, but do you have a section on reading the market internals in your course? I do not. The course is specifically focused on market profile. I am going to make a market internals video eventually down the line. I don't have any plans of doing it anytime soon, but at some point down the line, I will make one just for the public YouTube channel. But also, I've got, if you go to piratetraders.io, okay, market continuing to sell here. If you go to piratetraders.io, and then on the top here where the tab says Learn, if you scroll down to Blog and you click on Blog, you'll see this one here that says Market Internals, how to set up and read them. And then I just walk through each one by one and explain how I have it set up and how to read it. So that is available anytime on the website. Okay, buyers are starting to step in. Is there enough of them to get the market above the zero line and keep it there? That is the question. Cyrus, is today's low right around yesterday's settlement price mechanical, such that you'd suspect it was only retail there and more lows are coming? Even as I type, we're getting there again. Yeah, so I guess at the time that you wrote that, the low was right around yesterday's low. That would have been weak if it was within a tick of yesterday's closing price, I mean. David V, my overnight low is at 43.09. Yeah, so you're just not including the 15-minute runoff period that I include. That's fine. You don't need to change your settings. You're okay. You could have just been appreciating this level as yesterday's closing price. I'm just calling it yesterday's low, but you could have thought of it as the settlement for yesterday as well. Sty. Good morning, Charles. What's the difference between chop and rotational? That is a great question. Rotational is a signal that we get from the market that gives us confidence that we know what the market is doing, right? Rotational basically tells us that likely at the moment we get the signal, which is what we call cessation of one-time framing, that the market, the highest probability of what will happen is the market will stay above the current low and below the current high, and it will just rotate around inside that range. That is a market that is rotational. However, in the morning, when the market is doing the same thing, grinding up and down, there is no limit to how high or low it can go. You can get chop that keeps going lower and lower and lower and then turns around and chops up and makes new highs and goes higher and higher and then chops back down. There's no range for it to be stuck inside. So it is much more random. Chop is like you're basically guessing if you're taking a trade when the market is doing chop. Whereas when the market goes rotational, meaning we've established a range, well, then you can take high probability trades going long below the POC and short above it, and then targeting those trades back to the center of the range, right? So it's the difference between chop and rotation is the probability of the setup. But good question. They are fundamentally the same thing, which is just uncertainty in the market. Okay, the market's trying to start building some support here, but they can't seem to keep those ticks above the zero line. So I don't trust the buyers until they successfully keep us up there. If they keep getting slapped down, we'll need to make a new low to bring in more buyers. Also, still only have 79 contracts on the low for today, which is a little bit weak. Okay, buyers really trying to defend this level. Let's see if they can hold it. I also just noticed it's the 20 moving average on both indices. So there'll be some bots buying there as well. If that breaks, it could lead to a bit of a liquidation, which it's doing now. It's liquid. It's liquidation time. It's liquidation time. It's liquid. Liquidation time. Bonus points if you know the reference. There it is. Yeah. Go get you those stops filled. Okay, leaving behind lots of low volume nodes here that need backfilling. Okay, we're starting to enter that area where we've got the last of our support from yesterday. But yeah, tons of support from the overnight, the previous night down here. So we're looking for buyers to start to step in somewhere around 84. Let's see what they got. Remember my thesis that I opened the day with. If we can bounce down here and find support once again in this area, I would be willing to target a repair of the poor high once that support is established and the trend begins to move higher. It could also be that this area is the balance area high as well. It might not be all the way to yesterday's high. Anyway, just something to think about. Trading Donkey, buyers need to retake 92 right now. Yeah, they can. They can get back up there and backfill that 76 level pretty easily. All right, the ticks are telling us the downtrend is still intact. That may not have been enough to bring in the buyers. And we've begun one time framing lower, but left behind a massive amount of single prints. So this decreases the odds of much further downside continuation unless we backfill some of this first and then get resistance. So yeah, I mean, this is bearish. We're one time framing lower. It's hard to call where specifically we find support, but we should find support somewhere above yesterday's low. If yesterday's low breaks, look out below. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're going to find support here and then try to backfill these single prints, and we'll see how much of them they're able to backfill. We shall see. All right, and we've begun the process of backfilling. Once again, we have good taper on the low, but I don't like the 71 and 14 contracts. That it slightly increases the odds in my mind that we need to revisit and bring in some more two-sided trade down there. But at the moment, the market is backfilling the single prints. So we're looking for resistance. With that, I shall bid you all farewell, au revoir, and wish you the best Wednesday of your life. And I look forward to seeing you here tomorrow morning. All right, this is the moment where new sellers either pile on or the buyers start to try to recover. So keeping a close eye on the ticks. Anyway, all right, guys, off to the private stream. Have a great rest of your day.